All right, everyone, my apologies. It's 5:01 by the clock I have, although my watch says 5 o'clock. So my apologies for being a minute late. All right, so good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, October 18, 2022. The time is, according to the computer, 5:01 p.m. The regular meeting of the following will come to order. The Victorville City Council and the same council also sitting as the Victorville Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agencies, the Redevelopment Agency, the City as Housing Assets successor, Joint Powers Financing Authority, and the Victorville Water District. Madam Clerk, will you kindly call the roll?
Councilmember Becerra.
Present.
Councilmember Gomez.
Buenos días, buenas tardes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Present.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, so we're going to move on to the introduction to public comments. Are there any requests by Zoom?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All right, with that said, will you kindly set the timer for 3 minutes in the event that anyone wishes to speak on closed session items? Excuse me,
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Madam Mayor, 30 seconds has lapsed and I have no speakers.
All right, thank you very much. So the public comment period is now closed. Chair brings the item back to the council. And now we're going to move on to declaration of closed session items by our city attorney, Mr. Bornowski.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. We have 2 items this evening. They are both existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1. The case names, the case numbers are set forth on the agenda. To the extent there is reportable action, we will report it either at the conclusion of the closed session or at the commencement of the regular 6 o'clock session.
All right, thank you. And with that said, we're going to be in recess to closed session, and we will resume open session at 6 p.m. Are we all ready, council? Yes. All right, well, good evening. Today is Tuesday, October 18, 2022. The time is 6 p.m. and we are resuming the open session of our regular meeting, the following of which will come to order. The Victorville City Council and the same council also sitting as the Victorville Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency, the City is Housing Assets Successor Joint Powers Financing Authority, and the Victorville Water District. Madam Clerk, will you kindly call the roll?
Councilmember Becerra,
Present.
Councilmember Gomez,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving,
Present.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. All right, Mr. DeBortnowski, are there any closed session announcements to be made?
Thank you, Mayor Jones. We had two items this evening. Both were existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1. The case names and the case numbers are set forth on the agenda. At this time, there is no reportable action with respect to either item.
All right, thank you so much. At this time, we're going to move on to the invocation, which will be led this evening by Father Ismael Valenzuela Salazar of Holy Innocents Catholic Church. That will be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance led by our Police Captain John Wickham. Father, will you please step to the podium, and audience, to the extent that you're able, will you please rise?
En el nombre del Padre, y del Hijo, y del Espíritu Santo. Amén. Heavenly Father, I pray for the leaders of the City Council of Victorville, California. Lord, you put them to the service of humanity. Help them to choose the right path when they make decisions on behalf of the city of Victorville. Decisions that promote the common good, peace, justice, and unity. Please give them wisdom so that they may be able to do things beyond their understanding, knowing that it helps now and then to step back and take the long view. The kingdom is not only beyond our efforts, it is even beyond our vision. We accomplish in our lifetime only a fraction of the magnificent enterprise that is God's work. Nothing we do is complete, which is another way of saying that the kingdom always lies beyond us. No statement says all that could be said. No prayer fully expresses our faith. No confession brings perfection. No pastoral visit brings wholeness. No program accomplishes the church mission. No set of goals and objectives includes everything. This is what we are about. We plant the seeds that one day will grow. We water the seeds already planted, knowing that they hold future promise. We lay foundations that will need further development. We provide yeast that produces effects far beyond our capabilities. We cannot do everything, and there is a sense of liberation in realizing that. This enables us to do something and to do it well. It may be incomplete, but it is a beginning, a step along the way, an opportunity for the Lord's grace to enter and do the rest. We may never see the end's results, but that is the difference between the master builder and the workers. We are workers, not master builders, ministers, not messiahs. We are prophets of a future, not our own. Merciful Father, give the members of this council the grace and courage to make sound decisions that align with your will for this city of Victorville, California. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Captain Wickham.
Please face the flag and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And Father, thank you so much for such beautiful words that minister to us all. Thank you, Captain Wickham. All right, moving on. Madam Clerk, will you please present the agenda and any revisions thereto?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are no revisions to the agenda tonight.
Thank you so much. And then moving on to conflict of interest declarations, council members.
None.
Hearing none, seeing none, we're going to move on to the introduction to public comments. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
All right, with that said, of course, welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Victorville City Council. Your City Council is interested in your ideas and opinions and furthermore endeavors to incorporate them into its deliberations. At the same time, the council must be able to carry out its business in an organized and efficient manner free from material disruption. Therefore, this meeting will be administered in accordance with the council's established policies and procedures and Government Code 54957.9. Individuals may speak on agenda items or on issues not posted on the agenda during the public comments section, providing those comments are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Individual speakers may address the council once per public comment period and once per each public hearing item for up to 3 minutes. Additional time may be allocated for appeal hearings, which tonight we have none, in accordance with the city's adopted policy and procedures manual. Those who desire to comment on a public hearing item this evening may wish to reserve their comments until that particular public hearing item has been opened. All testimonies to be directed solely to the council. Although open meeting laws do not permit council members to engage in dialogue with any speaker during the public comment periods, please know your comments and questions may be taken into consideration by council members when discussing that particular agenda item. The presiding officer may briefly respond or have staff respond to statements or questions, or may request that the staff report back to the council at a subsequent meeting. Speakers are requested to speak as briefly as the subject permits. Individual council members who speak as a member of the public do so without the semblance or presumption of authority derived from her public office and are subject to the same meeting rules of conduct and decorum as other public participants. Whether attending this meeting via Zoom or in person, once comments are invited, the speaker will be called on by name, then recognized by the presiding officer. The speaker will state the item number that will be addressed or that the subject matter is a non-agendized matter. Audience members may not disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of this meeting, and those who do are subject to removal from the meeting pursuant to Penal Code 403. Your understanding and cooperation are appreciated. All right, Madam Clerk, may we have our first speaker in chambers if there are any?
Yes, our first speaker is Paul Marsh
Thank you.
on a non-agendized item.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Marsh, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Jones and City Council. What I want to really just briefly touch on is I'm just going to call it fairness. We're all in an election period, and candidates are working hard to win the seats that they are vying for, and it's really competitive. But there needs to be a certain degree of fairness that goes that's involved with that also. Now, as far as the fairness I'm talking about is the signs. It's actually the destruction and displacement of signs. My signs, I don't really care. I'm not up here to talk about mine. I've had candidates, put their signs over my signs. That's okay. But what I witnessed on the 9th of this month, 9th of October, it was between 1:45 and 2 p.m. Right off of Bear Valley Road and Amethyst. As I was driving back home, I saw a candidate's husband, his name Basil Kimbrough. The candidate is Lizette Angulo. He was, I guess he was replacing her sign. Well, her sign was right above Bob Harriman's sign, which he went on and he took it down. He left it on the ground. and it was face down on the ground. He did not try to put it back up if that's what he was actually doing, moving her sign to replace his sign, moving his sign to replace her sign. Okay, the responsible thing to do was to put his sign back up in the place that it was, but that's not what he did. That disturbed me. I drove down. I was trying to turn around to tell him, "Hey, look, I see you," and I was going to say it in a joking manner. But by the time I turned around and got back to that point, he was gone. I know it was him. I know his car. He has a little brown SUV. I know Basil when I see him. I know what he was wearing. I did file a police incident report. They told me it's not really they couldn't really treat it as a criminal matter, but it's more in line with a civil matter. To me, it's more in line with respect. When I came back by, all the signs, and it's really odd because all the signs in that corner are down. They're back up now because people have put them back up with the exception of Jay Obernolte. But the only signs that were standing, so Bob Harriman's signs, both his signs, the one that was tied to almost like a billboard type thing, and then the other sign that's a freestanding sign, that was bent and all the way on the ground. Jay Obernotti's sign was on the ground. The only signs that were standing in that place was Lizette Angulo and a small sign with Derek Marshall. So all I'm just saying is that, let's just be fair. Everybody's trying to win, and I know people are working hard, but there needs to be a certain level of fairness, and the same degree that you would hold others to, then I hope that they do it themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh. Madam Clerk.
There are no additional in-chamber speakers.
All right, so with that said, the in-chambers public comment period has now concluded. Moving on to Zoom requests.
I have no speakers, Madam Mayor.
All right, will you kindly set the timer for 30 seconds in the event that we have any members of our audience who wish to speak to, wish to give public comment. We certainly want to come alongside them.
We have a speaker now. It is Galaxy A12.
Thank you, welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. This is Maggie Martin. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let me cut over to my notes. One moment, I apologize. Okay, so Madam Mayor and Council, I'm going to be speaking about council member conduct at the October 4th meeting. So had some concerns about Councilmember Gomez's hypocritical, albeit atypical behavior, accusing Mayor Jones of being rude, disrespectful, and creating a hostile environment. Check the video. That was priceless. I feel that Ms. Gomez should look at all the past council meeting videos wherein she was rude, disrespectful, and hostile. Let's not have the kettle calling the pot black. Honestly, I suspect she doesn't really remember anything she said or did in previous meetings. At least it doesn't sound, doesn't sound or look like it. So moving on from that. Furthermore, I regret and hereby publicly rescind my comments and praises of support to the council members who came to the dais in 2020. I had given in to the excitement of the moment and my high expectations for the new members. Well, that's been short-lived, much to my dismay. During the October 4th meeting, one council member was cutting in a catty, unsolicited, and unwarranted comment to another member, forgetting her own past negative political history. And the other member can't seem to figure out who she aligns with. At least it appears so. Council members as a team, well, that's an obvious misnomer. When the pressure of principles is in play and personalities get in the way, that so-called teamwork falls by the wayside as individuals pursue their own handcrafted and elusive lofty goals, wearing the hats of phonies, fakes, and schemers as charlatans are prone to do. I've seen enough to be firmly convinced that who they publicly claim to be and what they stand for regarding the city and its people is in reality only a bold lying front, and not, unfortunately, what the constituency actually believed they would be getting in exchange for their vote. That is the real travesty here, and I'm saddened by this. I don't even dare to guess what kind of pathetic, backbiting, backstabbing, juvenile, and petty behavior may be taking place. I shudder at the thought. I expected more. I expected better. And the people of Victorville most surely deserve more than this from your council. Excuse me. I said from the beginning that an all-female council was not a good thing. I am sorry that some of you have proved me right. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker is Lisbeth Lanuza.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Lanuza. Welcome to our meeting.
Good evening. Hi, I am a current nursing student at Azusa Pacific University, and I had a question regarding the provision of supportive services. And my question is, how is the city planning to ensure that all low-income families or families with food insecurities have the opportunity to access food assistance services?
All right, thank you so much for a question. And so, Ms. Lanuza, I would invite you to contact our city manager's office so that we'll be happy to answer that question. Madam Clerk?
There are no additional speakers.
All right, thank you very much. And again, I don't know how much time we went into the time on Zoom meeting, but please continue to until we get to the 30-second mark.
Madam Mayor, 30 seconds has lapsed and there are no additional speakers.
All right, thank you very much. So with that said, the public comment period is closed and the chair brings us back to the council. With that said, the chair wishes to make a couple of comments, I think, for the benefit of our council and certainly our community. And the chair has received a number of phone calls from community members pursuant to our last meeting, and they only contacted me because they themselves had received a number of calls. And I am quite confident that my colleague council members have probably received comments as well from our last council meeting. So at this time, I wish to state that I don't think that our last council meeting was in keeping with how we generally as a council conduct ourselves. I believe that our council, each and every council member here, has the best interest of our city in mind. Each has professed, and I completely agree with, their love for our city, their commitment to our city, and their willingness to do what is right and honorable. So with that said, I would like to take another moment to highlight some of the positive attributes of each of my and her knowledge when it comes to making decisions for our city. As to my other colleague, Mayor Pro Tem Leslie Irving, though a relative newbie to our community, she has stepped up to learn about the culture of Victorville. She has quickly acclimated herself. She volunteers in significant nonprofit agencies in our community. She does very good work. And let me just tell you, having been in public office for 12 years, she does her homework, and there's no question about that. She does her due diligence. So with that said, I want our community to know that we are in fact a team. It may have not looked like it at the last council meeting, but we do stand together and we do respect one another. And with that said, I would appeal to my colleague council members to also respect the role of the chair as difficult.
Consortium. And so with that, because the money was made available through the consortium, we actually had to go through a process to amend our action plan, which is effectively our spending plan as to the use of these funds. These funds, the receipt of these funds and ultimately the action plan supporting the expenditure of these funds has gone through a public process where that public process yielded a recommendation that's before you tonight. So with that, the author on this item is your city planner, Mr. Scott Webb. He's available for any questions or comments you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Metzler. All right, Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the Honorable City Council conduct a public hearing to receive citizen and public comments regarding the city's proposed amendments to the 2021-2022 Annual Action Plan. Adopt resolution number 22-112, amending the 2021-2022 Annual Action Plan, thereby approving an allocation plan for $1,953,395 of home ARP funds available to the city of Victorville, and amending the annual budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 to reflect additional revenue and expenditures in the amount of $1,953,395, and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents for submittal to HUD.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. All right, we're going to move on to technical questions for clarification. We're going to begin this evening with Member Becerra.
No questions.
Thank you. Member Gomez.
Yeah, so my first question, so is the stakeholder input taking place in tonight's hearing? Is that what we're seeing with the stakeholder?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. To answer your question, yes, that is an opportunity to accept public input. But as mentioned in the staff report, we did have 2 public meetings. We've also noticed this for 30 days and have yet to receive any comments on the last 30-day notice.
And how viable or important is it for anyone outside the city and internally within the city to be able to participate by asking questions, providing comments, clarification? Is that even something that people should be thinking about?
Yes, well, we've encouraged it through the process. These funds require us to develop this allocation plans with public input. So in the allocation plan, it shows the agencies and public that was reached out to. And there was multiple avenues for them to provide that input. We had a virtual meeting, an in-person meeting, and also an online survey available.
So with that online survey, is there any kind of prompting to help members of the public understand why it's important for them to contribute, rather than just looking at an agency and say, oh, I know that agency, but I don't know how to place a comment to be effective so that the city of Victorville can start mitigating its circumstances and actually apply that to the plan?
Mr. Webb, before you answer, could you speak into the mic for the Zoom audience?
Yes. Could you restate that?
Yes, in saying it differently, members of the community may not understand what this looks like and why it's important for them. So for a lay person to say you should be able to make some commentary, but you have no clue on how to address it, why would they? What's the purpose of addressing something like this? What is their contribution due to the city? Is it through maintenance? Is it through governing? What does it do?
So during the public workshops, we gave a presentation of the background of this funding source, what it's used for, and we were trying to solicit your basic comments from the public on what type of services that they feel the homeless population would need.
Okay. And what types of supportive services will be addressed based on the home ARP funding?
The action tonight would just allocate the funds to be available for supportive services. There would be future actions that would pinpoint how those funds would be used. For example, we're building a wellness center. Those funds could be used to support this wraparound services at that facility.
Okay. And is 15% the max funds for the ARPA funds?
15% is the maximum for the administration.
Okay. And how else can these funds be disseminated so 100% of the funds go towards these supportive services in the interest of those that may need the services?
Historically, through HUD funding, the city has used those funds to help support staff. That is the recommendation tonight as well.
Okay. What coverage is the administration and the planning portion of the funds? Can you be specific as to are there hours jotted in detail to what is being done by planning and administration? Is that detailed?
Yes. So the city's audited, and we have to provide documentation on how the city used those administration funds. So yeah, whether that's clocking hours or logging in invoices for, a public notice, what have you, yes, that's all documented.
So were you trying to convey that this item is basically to support the administration and the planning of the item?
Only 15% of the funds will be used to administer the program. The remaining amount will go all towards supportive services.
Is there within the report anything that aligns to show somehow how we can look at future actions rather than kind of voting
Your
blind?
time is up.
Thank you. So to the extent that you understand where she was going with the question, you're free to answer.
Yes, the allocation plan is a guiding tool. What we're recommending based on the feedback provided is that we use all of the funds for supportive services. Historically, that has been on an annual basis with CDBG funding, we run short on providing for the need of supportive services. So these funds will help supplement that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member Gomez. All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have just a couple of simple questions. I noted in the backup material that we received recommendations from the CPD grants subcommittee. Let me ask you a question. What is the standard for the public participation process? How it appears that there are multiple opportunities for the public to participate. What is the standard?
So in this case, we did have two public meetings. One was virtual, one was in person. We've also had an online survey. Then we took that information to develop the allocation plan. And then prior to doing our last 30-day notice when the allocation plan was published, we met with the CPD committee, which is standard practice as we distribute CDBG funding, to get their recommendation as well. And then we move forward with that final notice, 30-day notice, which concludes at this public hearing tonight.
Okay, so the standard is to get input from the subcommittee only? And to host the public meeting?
Subcommittee was appointed by council.
Let me tell you where I'm going. I want to know, do we give ample opportunity, multiple opportunities for public participation? And it sounds like we did.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, and the chair has no questions. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing and take public testimony. Madam Clerk, any request to speak?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, either in chambers or via Zoom?
I have no speaker cards or Zoom speaker. Oh, I do have one Zoom speaker now.
Thank you. All right.
Our first Zoom speaker is Michelle Meeson Herrera.
All right, well, thank you. Welcome to our meeting.
Good morning. I mean, not good morning, good evening. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
So my name is Michelle Meeson Herrera. I am part of the nursing school for Azusa Pacific University. And this semester, we're focusing on helping the community in ways we could better it. So my question was for the item 1 was that, so I believe the Home Art Fund will significantly help our community members in need. However, I want to know if the city is going to handle the supportive services programs, and if not, how will the programs be organized and chosen? I do hope either one of you or someone at the city staff can answer my question. I greatly appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to my question.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. So typically this isn't a to and fro kind of discussion during the public hearing, but I do think that your question is significant enough and would stand a brief response. Mr. Metzler, Mr. Webb?
I'll certainly allow Mr. Webb if he's ready to answer that.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, Council, and City Manager. Yes, thank you for the public comment. As I mentioned earlier, this allocation plan is just to allocate the funds for supportive services. We don't know the specifics on which supportive services to support the homeless it will be used for. Those will be forthcoming items. But this action tonight, if approved, allows the city to take action at a later date to use those funds. And we have 10 years to use them.
All right, thank you very much.
I think if I might just add,
Yes.
the larger part of our supportive services we're envisioning to be as a part of our wellness center, and of course we're under construction, but those relationships involving the supportive services, including case management, that's all stuff that we're currently working on right now. So it's just a little too early for us to report as to who particularly or what entities particularly are going to be working with us to provide those services.
All right, thank you, both Mr. Metzler and Mr. Webb. Madam Clerk?
Thank you very much for answering my question. So
Yes,
then maybe
ma'am.
we could
Yes,
see
ma'am.
on the next city council meeting that this could be, if once they have, how can I ask this? Like once we have a further plan, can this be answered then?
Yes, well, certainly, ma'am, that I can assure you that our team is going to take all of those in consideration for the benefit of our community and certainly for purposes of transparency.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate your guys' time.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker is Tanya Garcia.
Welcome, Ms. Garcia.
Hi guys, sorry about that. I couldn't get my phone to unmute.
Oh, we hear you.
My name is Tanya Garcia and I'm a student at Azusa Pacific University as well. In this semester, we are focused, like Michelle had mentioned, the things that we're focusing on for our community. I was wondering that how will the city ensure that the funds are properly being spent and used by those who really are in need of it?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Garcia, for the question. At this point, I would, again, we don't typically do a to and fro during the public testimony or public comment period. And so I would encourage you to reach out to our city manager's office for further clarification on that. Did you wish to say anything further?
No, that's it. Thank you so much. I will reach out to them.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. We appreciate you.
Have a good night.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Clerk?
There are no additional speakers.
All right, will you please set the timer for 30 seconds? We want to be available to those in our Zoom audience who may wish to speak and are having technical difficulties. We want to come alongside them with the extra time.
Madam Mayor, 30 seconds has lapsed and there are no additional speakers.
All right, thank you very much. With that said, the public hearing is now closed and the chair brings this item back to the council. Invites a motion from the council.
Madam Mayor, motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Second.
All right, for clarification as to points 2 and 3. All right, with that said, we have a first and a second, and we're going to undertake discussion on the pending motion, beginning with Member Becerra. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes, because we don't know what services will be used. I'm leery to vote without knowing the categories and how these interests will be benefited. So it's too early for me to vote on this item, knowing that it's too early. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member Gomez. And the chair has no discussion on the pending motion and closes the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra?
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Aye.
Motion passes with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
All right, so the council has taken action to adopt staff recommendation as it relates to, points 2 and 3 on item number 1. Moving on to our next business in order, which is the consent calendar, items 2 through 5. At this time, a motion is in order for the council and the council acting on its various boards of directors to approve action on consent calendar, items 2 through 5, in accordance with the recommendations presented on the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a first by Mayor Pro Tem, a second by Member Becerra. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra? Councilmember Gomez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving,
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the council has taken action in accordance with the recommendations set on the agenda as to items number 2 through 5 and acting in its various capacities. All right. We are now going to move on to our next business in order, which is written communications. Item number 6. This is the increase the amount of the annual supply and service agreements for Ellen Curtis and All Star Fire Equipment. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Yes, these two companies, Ellen Curtis and All Star Fire Equipment, are companies known to us that have been helpful in providing us with equipment and supplies necessary to help operate in the fire service. And so with that, these two particular items are being brought to your attention largely to modify the not to exceed amount and effectively serves as a cleanup to make these contracts compatible with the budget. Saying it differently, we do have budget in place for the purchase of the additional equipment, largely to satisfy or serve our new engines and new firefighter paramedics coming on to staff. But the contracts that we have in place did not keep up with the expenditure amount. So effectively, this item is just increasing the not to exceed amount on those two purchase contracts. Does not require an additional appropriation. So with that, any additional particulars as to the items being purchased or this item itself, this item is authored by your fire chief, Mr. Brian Fallon. He's available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That your honorable city council approve the increase of the annual supply and service agreements for Ellen Curtis in the amount of $200,000 for a total of $450,000, and All Star Fire Equipment in the amount of $225,000 for a total of $300,000.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. Moving on to technical questions for clarification as it relates directly to the staff report. We're going to begin with Member Gomez.
Yes, thank you. So what is PPE in this case referring to? Is that COVID-19 resources?
It could be, but it's likely speaking more specific to the protective gear that the firefighters and all those in fire service have to wear to protect themselves from the hazards they face.
In the past, how have the firefighters been supplying these personal protective equipment?
The city, it's been the city's responsibility to provide the requisite PPEs to perform the jobs, not the firefighters.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Member Gomez. Member Tem.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Member Becerra. All right. And the chair has none and invites a motion from the council.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve staff's recommendations for item 6.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. All right. We have a first. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. I believe I heard Member Becerra first, so we're going to give it to her. We have a first and a second discussion on the pending motion, beginning with Member Tem.
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Member Becerra.
No discussion.
Thank you, Member Becerra. Excuse me, Member Gomez.
Not at the moment.
All right. Thank you. And the chair has none. Discussion on the pending motion is now closed. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the council has adopted staff recommendation as to what is posted on the agenda on item number 6. Moving on to item number 7. This is the award of construction contract, Village Drive and Tawny Ridge Lane traffic signal. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Resulting from prior direction of this council on June 1st, 2021, staff was directed to proceed with the installation of a four-way stop at the intersection of Village Drive and Tawny Ridge Lane. Since that time, we've actually designed that signalized intersection. The design work was undertaken by our in-house staff in the engineering department. And from that design, then we actually proceeded with the public bid to this point where we're ready to actually undertake the award. So this project has gone through our public procurement process with a low bid recommendation to Elcor company. So with that, the author on this item that can answer any of the technical details is Mr. Brian Gangler. He's our city engineer. He's available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the Honorable City Council award a construction contract to Elecnor Belco Electric, Inc. in the amount of $601,714.48 for the Village Drive and Tawny Ridge Lane traffic signal project.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. We're now going to take technical questions for clarification as it relates directly to the staff report. We're going to begin with Mayor Pro Tem.
Again? Okay, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Becerra.
Questions?
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes. When was this traffic light added to the priority queue?
The priority queue, I'm not exactly sure, but maybe that means how long has it been our CIP? I know this council finally directed us, as I said earlier, last year, June, July.
Well, I can tell you that it is in this year's budget, the city budget. If I remember right, I think the grant was in last year's budget. I can't remember that part. We did get notification that the grant was approved in March of 2021. And so I'm not sure if it was in the prior year's budget, but certainly it was budgeted this year in anticipation of the project.
Okay, so in anticipation of the project, does this mean that a grant was actually specified within a year's time period to have this light on that specific area?
We were notified in March of 2021 that the grant funding was approved for this project.
So the funding approval had to occur when someone submitted something for this area. Is that not how it works?
Yes, we submitted a grant application, which was reviewed by Caltrans Local Assistance, and it was subsequently approved after that.
So was that grant for anywhere in the city or was it for that specific area?
It was for that specific project.
Okay. Was the traffic signal part of the CIP of traffic signals?
Yes.
So that was entered about a year or so ago to the CIP project?
I know it was in this year's budget. Certainly, we were preparing it in March of this year.
So before about 365 days, we didn't have this as part of the project. This is something new that we're looking at to vote on today. Is that correct?
It would be the chronology I just described.
Which was?
The grant approval was in March 2021.
Okay.
And then it was in this year's budget, which was approved, starting in July of this year.
Was this traffic signal? Oh, I asked that. Are there matching funds for the HSIP grant?
Yes, there are. We have Measure I that is used as matching fund.
Okay, and when looking at the bidding proposals, what distinguished the cost between the companies for the products that were being cost effective and maybe not cost effective, whereas this one came in being the lowest bidder?
It was a typical competitive bid process where we look at the total bid, and while the items might vary from one bid to another, the low bid was the most competitive bid.
Okay, and what is the process taken for a traffic signal to be placed on the city? Do they contact you, the city council? What's the process?
Okay, at this point, the chair is trying to give a lot of leeway, and certainly the questions are helpful and informative, but we need to stick to the purpose of this agenda item, which is to award a construction contract.
Yeah.
Member Gomez, if you could align your questions with that purpose.
Yeah, in the past, we have had members wanting to put traffic signals, and it has been very, very tough. So I was trying to figure out how can the member of a public do so, because Village Drive and Tawny Ridge is not something that was on the radar, like you said, before 2021 of March.
So thank you, Member Gomez. But again, the focus of this item is to award a contract. So if we could keep our questions in line with that.
So I have already said what I needed to say. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Member Gomez. All right, and the chair has no questions as it relates to the staff report and invites a motion from the council.
Motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a first and a second discussion on the pending motion. Member Becerra.
No discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes, absolutely. When there's an award of a construction contract, I think it merits more transparent, more accountability and being more transparent as to how these projects get online. And sometimes it's not very clear unless we have a new election, a new mindset coming with connections. So that's very important. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member Gomez.
You're welcome.
The chair has no comments on the pending motion, closes the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving,
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the council has taken action to adopt staff recommendation as it relates to item number 7 as posted on the agenda. Moving on to item number 8, this is to approve the purchase of an Elgin CNG Broom Bear Street Sweeper. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This item is in fact to purchase another street sweeper. It would make our 5th machine added to our street sweeping operation. We currently operate with 4 operators, so this effectively will provide us with an extra unit to the extent a sweeper goes down for maintenance type reasons. So with that, this is a budgeted item. It's something that we discussed as a part of our this year's budget and including in the CIP. So with that, the author on this item is your Director of Public Works. Mr. Doug Matthews is available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Metzler. All right, Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the Honorable City Council award Hacker Equipment Company as authorized distributor the piggyback purchase of an Elgin CNG Broom Bear Sweeper in the amount of $467,819.66, along with a 10% contingency of $46,781.97 for a total amount of $514,601.63 under the Sourcewell contract number 093021-ELG.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, we're going to take technical questions for clarification as it relates to the staff report. Member Becerra.
Thank you. Mr. Metzler, if I may, Mr. Matthews. She mentioned piggyback. Piggyback of an equipment is considered some other entity has done all the legwork, has taken their time to get the lowest bidder. We all figure out what we need, and that's why we're piggybacking. So we're not doing the same work over that has already been done for us as low bidder, correct?
Yes, not always lowest bidder, but best quality machine for the price. So
what
they look at more than just price.
Okay. All right. And this new sweeper is going to go into rotation for the other ones because they're CNG. Their life term is 8 to 10 years.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir. No further questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, certainly. All right, Mayor Pro Tem. Excuse me, Member Gomez.
Yes, so a piggyback purchase insinuates or infers that somehow we have already dealt with this company. Is that the case?
The cooperative has vetted this company to provide this machine as being a machine that is well worth the price that is being paid for it. So they look at the quality of the equipment and the price and put it all together and determine it to be a good value purchase. And it comes with a discounted price because there's such a high volume of machines purchased through this cooperative that you get a better price than, say, if the city were to go out and just try and buy this machine on its own.
What's a cooperative?
It's an organization that really works with public agencies to, again, go out and do all the legwork to get these types of agreements in place for this vehicles and equipment for different municipalities.
Yeah, that's clear. Did that cooperative bypass the purchasing ways that we do business with when we're trying to make sure that there are low costs? It's not just falling under Sourcewell.
No, this is allowed for in our municipal code as an acceptable means of purchasing vehicles and equipment.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that? I didn't hear the first part.
This is provided for in the municipal code as an acceptable way to purchase vehicles and equipment.
Okay, so it's my understanding that when we're doing a purchasing bid, a cooperative is very distinct from what we usually practice. And that's my understanding of how these two function, despite the fact, like you're saying, they may both be within the purchasing documents.
They're slightly different for sure.
And then my next question is, how many street sweepers do we have? 4?
We currently have 4 operating, one is a one is a backup.
Okay, and so with this added other feature that we're gonna add in, which is a street sweeper, that'll make up the 5th one, right, for the city?
Well, it'll give us 6. It'll give us 2 backup units, one of them being, I believe, a 2009, and the other, I think on there is a 2013. So we'll hang on to those for a bit just till we determine what we want our street sweeping operations to be, but 2 of them will still be backup units. We have 4 sweeper operators, so we really need 4 everyday machines to go out and operate.
Okay.
If I might, Mr. Matthews, if I remember correctly from the presentation at the budget time, the 2 that we do have in reserve are older, aging machines and likely are going to fall out of compliance with CARB regulations. So if I remember correctly, notwithstanding the 2 being in reserve, they're effectively going to be surplus. And this unit and probably in upcoming budget years will end up identifying the need to buy additional sweepers to I guess, make our sweeper operations more current with equipment. Correct, and we'll keep one of them as a backup though, for sure. We want one backup. But the other thing that gets out of date are the age of the tanks on the CNG equipment. So you have to keep those in compliance too.
So, and my next question is, what's the average coverage of the city, and does that coverage reach the entire city, and how long does it prolong?
I don't know what you mean by average.
So when there's 40-hour work week, there's coverage of square mileage or square miles. How much of the square miles do we cover? And when we cover that square mileage, is it able to do the entire city in 6 months, in a year? And do we repeat the process again and again? So there's a pattern. Do we know that or no?
Yes, it was in the presentation. I think it's in here as well that we're currently a 4 to 6 week interval for residential streets.
Which means it covers the entire city, all nook and cranny, right? Is that what we mean? That's my understanding.
All curb and gutter streets between 4 and 6 weeks are covered.
So if there's no curb or gutter, we're not expecting to see that in that neighborhood.
Generally, no, we do some that don't have curb and gutter though.
Oh, okay, all right. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member Gomez. Member Tim.
Yes, I have one general question. It was prompted by the discussion that you had with the other council persons. Can you restate? Well, no, you don't need to restate it. When we talk about piggybacking and those kinds of purchasing solutions to help us with our competitive bidding process, you mentioned that the standard that we're using is best value. Is that what you said? Something like that?
It's best value and price.
Okay.
When you're comparing these machines, a better machine is obviously going to cost more.
Correct.
Something that does different functions might cost more. So it's getting a machine that works best for you at the best value.
Right. Do we ever consider the lowest bid, or we don't? That's generally not what we consider when we're doing piggybacks.
Yeah, that's not really in here. I mean, again, if we were to go out and bid this, we wouldn't get the volume pricing that we're going to get out of this cooperative. So it would likely be a higher cost because we're just buying one.
Got you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So just to be clear, Mr. Metzler, the need for this was discussed certainly during our budget hearing, correct?
That is correct.
And the council agreed that this was an absolute need for our city to make sure that we're providing adequate service to our community for cleanliness, really, in our community.
Correct.
Right. And then so, and as I recall at the time of that hearing, we discussed that we did have several aging machines and really the burden that put upon the employees and their ability to really carry out what they would expect to be their duty toward the health and cleanliness of our city.
Correct.
All right. So this really is something needed. It's something that we anticipated. Right now, what's before us is really making sure that we are purchasing in a responsible manner.
Yes, and this is a first step in moving towards what I recall from the council is wanting to invest more in our street sweeping program. We definitely need to focus on our equipment first, but there was also discussions about considering, for the sake of increasing our frequency, perhaps even investing in additional manpower. But the equipment is going to have to come first in this particular case. So this is a first step in that direction.
Yes, sir. And so you just anticipated my next question, right? Because we all have heard so many complaints from our community concerns. Really, it's not, the concerns haven't always been so much targeted to cleanliness. There's, I think, a general consensus that that's going well, but more with the issues of code compliance and um, tr- um, um, unauthorized vehicles on the streets and all of those kind of things, and bringing in code compliance to help deal with that in tandem with street sweeping services, correct?
That is correct. There was an intent to get much more out of our street sweeping.
All right. Yes. All right. Thank you very much. So those are all my questions, and the chair invites a motion from the council.
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Discussion on the pending motion. Member Becerra.
No discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes, I don't know that I quite understand the cooperative, but based on the last explanation of what I heard, it didn't seem very positive, but I do appreciate the detail because it lets me think that there's different ways of doing things. So I appreciate your detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez. All right, and the chair has no questions on the pending motion. Closes the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the council's taken action in accordance with the recommendations set forth on the agenda. Moving on to item number 10, delegation of authority to make certain determinations and applications relating to disability retirements under the Public Employees Retirement Plan. My apologies if I said 10, I meant 9. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Yeah, this item is brought really to help clean up a potential issue from arising. And it's really dealing with one of the defined relationships between us and CalPERS. And in this particular case, it's actually providing a delegation of authority to the city manager relative to any employee matters involving application for a disability retirement. And as it currently stands, absent the delegation to the city manager, to the extent we had a disability retirement being applied for, there are a number of questions and there's an extensive amount of paperwork that has to be submitted to accompany the retirement application, all of which involves confidential employee information. And so with that being said, consistent with how we handle all other employees, where all of the employees, employee-related matters are dealt with by the city manager, this would just make our relationship with PERS consistently applied with how we handle personnel matters. But with that, the better details of this item are authored. In fact, this is co-authored by your Deputy City Manager, Ms. Sophie Smith, along with Human Resources Officer, Ms. Josie Trevino. They're both available for any questions or comments you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the Honorable City Council adopt resolution number 22-113, delegating authority to the city manager to make certain determinations and applications relating to disability retirements under the Public Employees Retirement Law.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, technical questions for clarification as it relates to the staff report. Member Gomez.
Yes. What is the current debt owed by the city?
Member Gomez, could you be more specific as to how that relates to item number 9?
So we're on item 9. It's about delegating authority to make determination application relating to disability retirement under the Public Employees Retirement Law.
Yes, ma'am.
So my question was pertinent to, there has to be some kind of debt and it hasn't been paid off. It's my understanding. So we have liability, and if we have a liability, I was asking what that liability is. It could be in a percentage.
Well, the liability, I'm assuming you're speaking of the CalPERS unfunded pension liability. That's a major assumption on my part. That's not, something relating to this item. That's a number I am aware of. I do have, it's actually on my desk, but, I don't have it handy to answer that question, right now.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and it is related to that. And I was wondering if there's any type of connection in terms of employee funding and the unfunded pension liability. And it's my understanding that they're very closely knit together.
They're very, related.
Okay. So what is the current, so then you wouldn't be able to answer the liability right question because it's just,
This item isn't dealing with that, so there was no need for that at this time.
okay. So what is the city's current contribution in percentage?
Again, those similarly are not directly related to this item. That's information I have. I can certainly provide it separately.
Thank you. So, Mr. Mesler, again, I appreciate that. Member Gomez, this has to relate, this relates to giving authority to the city manager as to certain determinations. If we could bring the questions in line with the purpose of this agenda.
Yeah, the questions in line are based on the California Public Employees Retirement System that it looks like the city of Victorville somehow has some of this nature for our employees. So I wanted to see what the input was for our employees. How does that either help them or harm them? Or what are we doing in terms of being able to determine if these types of disability retirement funds are applicable? It's bringing out the details so that our members understand what's going on. Obviously, if I'm not getting it right, there's a need to explain how this is pertinent to our employees or the system that we're working with.
All right. So, Mr. Metzler, as it relates to that explanation, please feel free to answer as long as it correlates to the agenda item.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. I think how the employee benefits in the council granting this delegation of authority to the city manager is it reduces the potential for any personal, private information, especially as it relates to an individual's health status, from actually being discussed here at the dais with this council. So delegating the authority eliminates that potential for those personal, sensitive, confidential information to be shared public.
Okay, and do city councils, are they privy to this agenda item or is just employees?
This is dealing with employees.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, Member Gomez. Member Tim?
Yes, I thank you, Madam Mayor. Something that struck me as odd. Did you just say that by granting you, I don't have a problem with delegating you the authority, but by doing so, it will somehow, we won't have the need to discuss personnel matters here publicly on the dais? Wouldn't we handle those privately anyway?
That's correct, and that's our normal way.
Oh, okay. The other question, I guess, I understand the recommendation is pretty straightforward. And I think you kind of alluded to the fact that perhaps we have a backlog or something that needs to be cleaned up. But right now, presently, is there a third-party entity that handles this for us, or is it handled, this process? Is it handled in-house?
I believe it's all handled in-house with our staff and working directly with CalPERS.
Okay, all right then. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Member Becerra?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Metzler, so basically what this is, if an employee is hurt bad enough where he or she has to retire from service, the city is given an astronomical amount of information so we can retire that employee, correct?
I'm sorry, can you restate that again, please?
If an employee is hurt, either off work or at work, where they are hurt enough where they have to medically retire, we're given an astronomical amount of information on this employee of why we're retiring them, whether it be a medical reason on their part or whether it be they got hurt at work.
That is correct. And taking it one step further, there could be cases where PERS is effectively conducting an investigation And that, you know, as an example, is something certainly we believe shouldn't be disclosed or discussed publicly for the sake of protecting individuals' privacy rights. That's effectively why the delegation's been requested.
And if I'm not wrong, a HIPAA law, if you violate a HIPAA law, you can get sued, can't you?
Yes.
Bad.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Yes, thank you, Member Becerra. So just thinking about the questions just asked by my colleagues, can you explain why the need for a resolution on this? I mean, doesn't this just naturally fall within the purview of the city manager?
It does, with the exception that CalPERS has its own separate standardized rules, and we had not specifically addressed this. So, based upon our contractual relationship with them, unless we officially, formally delegate the authority, their rules would actually prevail when it comes to dealing with a disability-related case.
All right, that makes sense. All right, thank you very much. All right, with that said, the chair invites a motion from the council.
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. We have a first and a second discussion on the pending motion. Member Becerra.
No discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Ma'am, thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes, I believe that CalPERS rules and they should be the ones that continue whatever it is that they need to do with their rules. And we need to eliminate politics from this because this is too political if we do assign authority to the city manager.
All right, thank you, Member Gomez. So, I mean, I appreciate that this is brought forward. I think it's, you know, effectively ministerial in effect, and I personally don't see that there's any politics whatsoever. It's just complying with what we need to do to make sure that we're aligning with all of the requirements set upon us, and really to, in effect, protect our employees. So with that said, the discussion period is now closed. Madam Clerk, the vote.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
Yes, so thank you. The council has taken action to adopt the recommendations set forth on item number 10. 9. Moving on now to item number 10. This is the Security Access System Upgrade Project, CCS 23-040. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. At the airport, SCLA, we do operate, among all of the operations out there, a security operations center. And effectively, that helps us monitor and control everything from cameras to the gate systems, including managing access rights to individuals from the off-airport grounds to the on-airport grounds and vice versa. And so with that, we have a fairly aged system, and budgeted this year were amounts to help upgrade both the hardware and software comprising that security system. So with that, this item has been brought forward to help accomplish that goal by your airport director, Mr. Eric Ray. I do see Mr. Ray on Zoom. He's available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the Honorable Southern California Logistics Airport Authority Board of Directors approve the award of a general services provider standard agreement in the amount not to exceed $100,000 to Convergent Technologies LLC in support of the security system upgrade project number CCS 23-040.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to questions for clarification as to the staff report. We're going to begin with Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have any questions. The staff report is pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Becerra.
I have to ditto Mayor Pro Tem's, all explained in there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Member Gomez.
Yes. What is the life of the new system?
So in life of a new system, it should last us for at least the next 10 or 15 years, just for longevity. So this will upgrade us to a new current software. The hardware also will be current, much easier to maintain, much more easier to operate as well. We're setting a very good, lifespan with this new equipment moving forward. As our equipment is aging, it's up to about 10 to 15 years old.
So is the new system the same type but more developed and progressive, or is this a completely different one where if we were to juxtapose it with each other, we could see astronomical differences?
There would be some pretty big differences, especially with the maintenance of the system. Currently, we have to have on-call technicians come out to SCLA to do any preventative maintenance or repairs in the system that may happen. This new software will allow us to have them tap into our servers remotely and be able to service us if we have any mishaps or any kind of maintenance needs. So for that aspect, it will reduce our costs for the maintenance, but also having newer equipment with the new software allows it to be just operate a lot more efficiently.
Okay, and then you did mention remote access, which opens up the window of cyber hackers or whatever. What protections are we already foreseeing in terms of protecting, or is that part of the system already?
It's part of the system already.
Can you speak closer into the mic?
I can, yes. Apologies. Yes, we've been working with our contractor Convergent on make sure to set up firewalls to prevent any kind of hacking, any kind of interference from the outside. But we'll be sure to work through that and go through all the pros and cons with that. But we see more of the pros with having the remote connectivity for diagnosing issues that we might have instead of waiting for the next day or 2 days for someone to come up and do maintenance.
And what's going to happen to that old system?
The old system, it'll just be discarded, so recycled, or we can use some of the older parts as well for spares if needed.
Okay, so do we currently know what we're going to do, or those are options that we just kind of can look at in the future?
What was the question again?
So you said it could either do this, this, or this. So you gave 3 different options. So is there a plan to use any one of them, or right now is just we'll see what we can do? Because if you dismantle it, you'll have it for usage, but if you discard it, we won't be able to dismantle for use parts.
Yep, and we'll go through that whole process while we're replacing it.
Okay. How old is this? And that system, how long did it last? The one that is going to be replaced.
Current system, it's about 15 years old.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. Member Gomez.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, should have introduced Mr. James Murawski. He's our airport operations and maintenance manager. He's a younger version of Mr. Ray.
Yeah, I was going to say he does not look like Mr. Ray. Thank you. It didn't work. All right, thank you. Well, certainly we appreciate your coming before us and giving really good answers to the questions put before you. All right. With that said, yes, Chair has no questions and invites a motion from the SCLA Board of Directors.
Motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. We have a first by Member Becerra, second by Member Gomez. We're going to get into discussion on the pending motion. Member Becerra.
No discussion, thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
At the moment.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Discussion.
Thank you. The chair has none. Discussion period is closed. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Yes, thank you. So the SCLA Board of Directors has taken action in accordance with the recommendation set forth on the agenda for item number 10. Moving on to item number 11, this is the amendment number 3 to a consultant professional services provider agreement with OpenGov for budgeting and planning software. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. OpenGov is a software provider known to us, and as we've been very much interested in identifying and implementing a new budget software module, we've actually studied a number of different solutions and come to the recommendation that is before you tonight, which effectively will get us a new budgeting software. So with that, the author on this item is your finance director, Mr. John Mendiola. He's available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
Staff recommends that the City Council approve amendment number 3, initiating a 5-year term for the professional services consultant agreement with OpenGov for implementation and maintenance of the budgeting and planning software in an amount not to exceed $547,775, and authorize the city manager to execute all documents related to this amendment.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Discussion, excuse me, technical questions for clarification on this item. We're going to begin with Member Becerra.
Thank you. Mr. Metzler, OpenGov has to follow government rules and laws of budgeting and bookkeeping and everything like that, correct?
They're designed to help us budget consistent with those laws, yes.
So when we get audited and they look through the books and everything is there for them.
It makes it easier to present for them.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Member Becerra. Member Gomez.
Yes, is OpenGov a replacement to an auditor?
No, it's a system.
Is it supplemental?
No, it's intended to replace the existing budgeting module that we have in place.
So the current budgeting module, you mean we're upgrading? Is that what you're talking about?
No, we're actually replacing with this new budgeting software.
The current is a Munis Tyler product, budgeting module software. We are replacing that with this OpenGov.
Okay, so Munis is being replaced, you say, with OpenGov?
The budgeting module for Munis is being replaced, not the larger program. There are several modules within Munis.
Okay, and is this ARPA funded?
No.
Yeah, based on the coding that's in the fiscal impact section of page 517, that's a technology fund funded out of the general fund.
Okay, and then I may be confusing this item, but not too long ago, we did state that we were doing a lot of replacements with computers that were so old, software, hardware. How does this tie in? Is this just another subset of what wasn't completed and that's why we're bringing it forth today?
No, this is not software. This is not hardware. This is software.
Right, but my explanation to provide context was not too long ago, there was appropriations of dollars that included hardware and software for the entire city. So when I look at this item, I think it's either an extension or a replacement of what we already did, but we didn't take care of it last time, but I could be mistaken.
It is not.
What is it not?
It is not a replacement or something we forgot the last time.
Okay, so then what is it?
It is a new purchase of software for budgeting module for preparation of our budget.
Okay, so we needed a new software because we didn't have a software
Nope,
for this purpose.
we do. We have Munis, a budgeting module within Munis, and we are no longer going to use it when we purchase this software.
So this is not an upgrade.
It is not.
So what is it? If it's not an upgrade, I'm trying to comprehend.
If I might, Madam Mayor and members of the council, so we have in this budget year identified an extensive amount of funding to reinvest in our technology. And so the technology largely is hardware driven and also software driven. You've seen things involving upgrading of communications speeds. I think we're at 1 gigabyte. Is that right? Into the building. Then, of course, we've had to spend a good amount of money on the actual wires, if you will, to be able to communicate. We've also had to buy and spend money on the actual hardware components to that can handle the computing power or that have the computing power to be able to handle and process speeds and storage. I think this item, the easier way to characterize it, if we wanted to compare it to something we're most commonly used to dealing with, which is our cell phones. If you imagined just buying a new cell phone, say the Apple 14 or i14, whatever they call it, we've done that with our hardware system here, and the cell phone effectively would be your hardware. What we're dealing with in this particular item is a software. This would be no different than buying a new app, if you will, on your iPhone, an app that in this particular case that would be dealing with budgeting. It is an actual software application, much more robust than what you could use on your phone, but effectively it'll be housed in our hardware system as a software application that all of the departments, including our finance department, uses for budgeting purposes.
Thank you. I have no further question. That explanation has helped me thoroughly understand my questions.
Yeah, thank you, Member Gomez. All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
That conversation kind of got me a little confused. Don't we already have a relationship with OpenGov?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay. And what do we use OpenGov for? I thought we were utilizing a software.
So it's currently being
Oh,
used, oh, I'm sorry.
sorry.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, it's currently being used for our transparency portal that's on the city's website
Okay.
that any citizen can go to and look at it, the budgeting.
Yeah, I checked that out
Numbers.
once or twice. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So, all right. I'm good. Thank you. All right.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The chair has no questions. And so I now invite a motion from the council.
I'd like to move that motion as recommended by staff.
So you wish to move that we adopt the recommendation?
In other words, yes.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Member Gomez. Is there a second?
Second that.
Thank you. We have a first and a second discussion on the pending motion, beginning with Member Gomez.
Yeah, just because it's simply written in plain English doesn't mean it's comprehensive to many members, including myself. So when I do ask questions, it's definitely not because I don't think you're the expert. You are. That's why I take the vantage point of asking for clarity, because if it's unclear to me, it has to be unclear to someone else in the world as well, whether they're watching through Zoom or not. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Member Gomez. Mayor Pro Tem?
No, ma'am, I don't have any.
Thank you, Member Becerra. Thank you, and the chair has none. And I close the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, so the council has taken action to adopt staff's recommendation as set forth on item number 11. Moving on to item number 12, this is the city manager reports. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. An item that just came to our attention today is a notice of intent we received from the Building Forward Library Infrastructure Program grant division within the California State Library Program. We actually got a notice of intent today that our application has been received and that there's an intent to award the city of Victorville for its Victorville Library project, $9,035,105. So say notice of intent because there's a process that we have to go through with the state to actually claim that money. We will be filing the claim for those monies, but all indications are that we will be receiving grant monies to support the relocation of our library to the Green Tree Golf Course. In addition to that, we do have a few events coming up. First, at the Victorville Library, we do have a Halloween ornament craft event. Participants will create a Halloween ornament. This is recommended for kids aged 8 through 17. It's going to take place Thursday, October 20th at 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. There's no cost and no registration required for that event. Also, we have our Victorville Community Cleanup Day. That's Saturday, October 22nd. We have 565 people signed up for that event currently. Volunteers will work in teams in about 30 areas around the city. For more information, contact us here. And we also have our Halloween event coming up, the Hallow Boo Trunk or Treat Drive-Through. That is the event where all of our departments compete amongst themselves to have the best booth, scariest booth, the funnest booth, but also more importantly to provide a safe environment for our kids to participate in a drive-through event. Of course, their parents are going to be driving them through, and we'll basically be giving out candy. And that's on Friday, October 28th, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Here at Victorville City Hall. There's no cost for that event as well, and no registration required. That's all I have at this time, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler, and thank you for the very good news. All right, moving on to item number 13. This is discussion and possible action regarding upcoming agenda items. We're going to begin with Member Gomez.
Yes, there's a requirement for council members to take an ethics course 1, 2, 3 that has not been delineated in agenda. So I would like to see that within the next 60 days so that all members can comply with that California legal requirement for us.
Okay, Mr. DeBortnowski.
Yeah, the requirement is to do it every 2 years. You also sometimes, the council members have the ability to do it through the League of Cities, but typically our office will provide that training. We typically do it like beginning of January of the year, especially to accommodate if there are new council members. Obviously, there's one vacant seat. So we typically provide that service as well, but there's also plenty of other options for council members to do that either online or through the League of City programs.
Did we, so just a minor question, didn't we do this in January of 21?
I believe we did, yes.
With the installation of the new council?
Correct.
All right, so we have a motion from Member Gomez. Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion dies. Member Gomez, anything further?
Yeah, another thing is our council cards are one-sided, meaning they don't have anything in the back. And many of the community members like to know who to call when and where, whether it's animal control or the trash bin or whatever needs to be called. So I would like to make a motion for council member standard cards to include in the back all the previous information of who to contact in the city in case they have issues with their bill, their water, their trash. That's my motion.
So the motion is to bring this up to the council for discussion to affect that?
So it's discussion and possible action within
Sure.
60 days.
All right, and you would like that at which meeting, Member Gomez?
Within 60 days, it doesn't matter as long as it's something that we can hear or talk about. And if it doesn't go through today, then it's a dead issue.
Certainly. All right, we have a first. Is there a second?
A second, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thompson, is, besides our cell number being on there, is City Hall's number on the bottom of that one, isn't it?
We have the clerk's office number on there.
That's right under ours.
Yes.
Whatever number we provided to be put on it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a first. Is there a second?
I second it.
All right, we have a first and a second. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra,
No.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
No.
Tie vote, motion fails.
Thank you. Member Gomez, anything further?
No, nothing else.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Thank you. Member Becerra.
I don't have anything either.
All right, thank you. And the chair has nothing, so we're going to move on to item number 14. This is our final item this evening, which is reports from our council members. And just as a friendly reminder, so there was a lot of leeway in our last meeting, and certainly I think was necessary under the circumstances. But the chair wishes to make sure that we going forward stay much closer to the intent and purpose of this item. And so we're going to begin with Member Becerra.
No reports right now.
Thank you. Member Gomez.
Yes, the intent and the purpose of this item is to ensure that the community knows that I'm here to help. My phone number is 760-912-3190. And if I can help you by you reaching out to me or the city clerk and they provide my number, I'm more than happy to help you with anything that I possibly can be a resource. It doesn't matter what it is. I delve into anything that would make your life happier. All it is for city councils is door knocking. That's my approach. Is letter writing. It's another approach. Is getting to meet you right where you're at in your issue, whether you're in City Hall, which you probably aren't, or if I see you walking on the street. So my report today is I'm reachable. I give my cell phone publicly. I knock at your door. I see you at the grocery store, whatever you may be. That's my approach. And that's what I'm offering as a purpose and an intention for this item, because I can go and say what I've done, but there's no need to. If you know what I do, you'll know that I'm there for you and on your corner.
All right, thank you, Member Gomez. Mayor Pro Tem.
I don't have a report, thank you.
Thank you. And so my report is very minor. I of course attend the typical meetings that we all do when we're appointed to outside committees and commissions. A little bit of note, the ad hoc committee, the Measure I ad hoc committee met again, and it has been renamed as the Transportation Investment Plan, and which is more aptly defined, right? And so we're moving forward with, looking into what that needs to look like for the betterment of our community over the long term when it comes to transportation and roads, most certainly, because as we all know, Measure I sunsets in 2040, and we need to make sure that we're proactive in planning toward that. And then before I close, I want to thank Member Becerra for being willing on extraordinarily short notice to take my place with a celebration of 30 years from by Chicago Title that's coming up this 30. So again, Member Becerra, I thank you for being willing to step up. All right, with that said, I thank everyone. That concludes our business for this evening. As a matter of housekeeping, all council members, staff, and audience members will kindly vacate council chambers in City Hall within 10 minutes. So that makes it 7:42, so that these facilities may be cleaned and secured for the evening, and members of the public are not permitted behind the dais. Good evening, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.